Hey church, you've probably heard me say before that our mission here at South Hills is to lead unchurched people into a growing relationship with Christ. That's why I'm super excited to be launching something called Rooted this fall. I have Jeff, our central director, here with me today. Jeff has a lot of experience with this course. Jeff, why don't you tell our church a little bit about what this Rooted program is all about?
Yeah, so what Rooted is essentially a 10-week journey to connect you with God, the church, and your purpose. You're going to be exposed to what we call 7 different practices in Rooted within the small group setting. Because you may be wondering, is this for me? I've been following Jesus a long time. I'm pretty new to the church. I'm not even sure about church. Rooted is for everybody. So if this is your very first day in church and you're wondering, what is my next step? Rooted is for you, because we know that you will never move beyond the fundamentals of practicing our faith. So jump into Rooted.
I just want to make sure you know, we truly believe this is a foundational decision for our entire church. So as we dive into this, please don't just look at this as another thing that we offer. It's the thing we offer for you to grow in your relationship with God.
Registrations for Rooted are open right now. You can sign up by opening up your Church Center app, or you can talk to somebody at the Connect Bar, or you can go on the campus webpage of the campus that you attend. All of the details on when Rooted is happening at your particular campus and how to sign up are all answered right there. We would love to see you guys sign up. Let us know if you have any questions along the way, and a staff member or volunteer would love to answer those questions.
It's not true. Now Laura's going to take it
Don't
personal.
try to butt. We gotta save America.
Okay, so we are going to continue political powder keg. Boy, this has been a tough topic because a lot of people like to get really upset. So I'm going to start off with a question. If I were to ask you, what is the most important thing in your life? Most of you would say, my faith or my family. That's the most important thing in my life. I would agree with you. I think you're telling me the truth when you say my faith and my family are the most important things to me. I believe you. But when you look at the most important things that we have, it's usually time and money. Those are the things we spend most of what we value most, is time and money. Now, we can see where we've spent our money because we all have bank accounts. But if you were to take a bank account of your time, what would it say? Where would most of it go? Would it go toward the thing that you say is the most important thing, your friends or your family and your faith? Now, there's an interesting study. Americans on average actually spend 3.5 hours a day on social media. That number jumps up to 4.5 hours a day for every 1 in 5 Americans. The number then jumps up to 7 hours a day online. Okay, so that could include social media, it can include a lot of whatever you're doing online. And then about 3.5 or 4 hours a day on TV. Now that is a lot of your investment on things that probably don't have to do with getting closer to God or maybe your family. Now you could say, well, I've just been researching things for 7 hours a day online for God. You could say that, maybe it's true, but probably not, okay? But that's what we spend the bulk of our time doing. Now, statistics also tell us that the most frequently talked about thing online or social media is politics. That's the thing that most people are mostly interested in. Now, a good question is, well, then, are we not supposed to talk about politics then? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, though, be careful when you start to put your stuff out there and understand that there are people that you care about that may not agree with your political point that you could potentially push away. So I'm not saying you can't do it, but it's possible that there are people that are in your sphere of influence, in your relationships, that are going to disagree with you that you're now going to push away. And that matters because relationships matter. Let me point it out in another way. Let me give you an example. Years ago, there was a late night show before Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, and Stephen Colbert. And it was a show called The Johnny Carson Show, The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Now, he was there for 30 years. If you don't know Johnny, or you don't really watch him very much, I'm going to give you a brief clip from one of his shows. He liked to poke fun at his co-host Ed McMahon a lot. At this particular one, it appears that Ed may have had a little too much before the show, and this is a very famous scene. Can we check that out?
Now, as you know, the San Diego Zoo is one of the finest zoos in the world, and we've had this young lady on the show very often the past, I guess, 7 or 8 years. She's been appearing with us.
9 years. About 9 years.
Right, yeah. Several plus several will be about 9.
You said 7 or 8.
No, no, I didn't say 7 or 8. I said several.
Then you said 7 or 8, and I said
Did
it's
I?
9. Yes.
9. Good, thank you.
Yeah. Some of the animals you had as babies are now 10 years old.
That would be about right.
Remember the animals that did something funny on your tie?
Yes,
Those little lions, the little baby lions, were 1 year old.
that's right.
They are now treacherous and ferocious 10-year-old animals.
Okay. Anyway, Joan Embry is here tonight.
And she's now 32.
That's right. Joan is an animal handler and a trainer. And you really think you're fooling everybody, don't you?
No.
And she
I'm
also...
just here to do my best to help you.
I know that. And she does her 3 horse shows a day. Did you know that? At the animal park.
Boy,
What?
what an exciting idea.
Would you like an army cot or something? Maybe just to kind of catch up on a little, little nappy poo? Just might snap you right out of it. Okay.
I love Joan. I'm the only one who went down to see Joan. Doc has never seen her. You've never seen her. I went to the wild animal
It's
farm.
all right. It's all right. It's okay.
But you're upsetting me.
No,
You're upsetting me.
I don't upset you.
I went down, Joan, and I
I know you
wrote it.
did. That's all right.
Don't say. No,
What?
I know her. I went down and.
Oh, I know you did. I know you went down there. And
I held a baby gorilla.
I couldn't go with you that week. You held a baby gorilla. Good, all right. And let's get her out here quickly. Would you welcome Joan?
That was a snippet. For you kids at home that have never seen Johnny Carson, that is a snippet of who he was. Now, right now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out who Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, and Stephen Colbert are voting for or which side of the fence they're on. It's pretty blatant, okay? But these guys get about, on average, 2 to 3 million viewers a night. Now, that sounds like a lot, actually. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that all 3 of those talk show hosts get 3 million people per. That is 9 million viewers just watching late night. Johnny Carson had an average of 19 million viewers every night. Okay? What does that mean? And by the way, Johnny was a liberal Democrat. I don't know if you know that. He was a Democrat. And he was pretty liberal. Here's what I'm saying. Nobody knew it because he poked fun at both sides. You didn't know what he was voting for because he had fun with everybody, right? What I'm saying is it attracted a lot more people when you didn't know exactly which side of the fence he was on because it attracted a lot more people. But when you start to pick a side and then you're vocal about that side, it shrinks your influence with the amount of people that are going to want to be around you and hear what you have to say. Now, again, does that mean it's off limits? No. Just make sure that you understand that not everybody is going to think like you do, and you don't really need to force everybody on that, okay? Now, policies and politicians, they do cause a psychological and an emotional reaction for most people. And again, to be clear, it's not bad to be interested in politics, and it's not bad to even talk about politics. But where we go off the rails is when we think everybody wants to hear our opinion about politics. That's where we go off the rail, because not everybody wants to hear this. Again, this is not to take away from any of your political preferences. There are certainly issues that even as a Christ follower, you do need to be paying very close attention to. Okay, there's things that you want to look at. There are things that I am paying attention to. But when you communicate that, you want to make sure that you're communicating in a way that you're not just annihilating somebody. Okay, here's what I'm saying, guys. This is the bottom line. The moment our love for our country takes precedence over our love for the people in our country, we've lost the heart of Jesus. Okay? So the moment that our love for our country takes precedent over the people that are living inside of it, then we've lost the heart of Jesus, guys. I know people that say, I had to put that person in their place because politically they were off. They were clearly against Jesus. Clearly, I had to put them in their place. You know, as if God is saying, listen, if they're going to disagree with you, then, get them in a headlock. Break a clavicle if you have to, but make sure they get to know my point, okay? That's not what he's asked us to do. In fact, he's asked us to do something so much harder than put somebody in their place. He's actually asked us to love them. That's so much harder than putting somebody in their place, okay? Again, I get this, guys. Please don't think I'm naive to politics, please. I am extraordinarily interested in this. There are things in this country that are happening, and as a parent, I am extraordinarily concerned about, okay? Absolutely. But where I have to always remember is I'm making sure that when I approach those topics, I'm making sure that I've got to remember the heart that I have for God first. That's why another reason why I'm so glad that my God is not my government. They're different. My God is my God. My government is something different. Now, I plan on doing something about things that I don't like, but there's a way that you could do that without demeaning those who disagree with you. Now, every time people say, I am out of here. Let's take California, for example. I am out of California. The governor is the worst. The politics are terrible. The schools are in shambles, and I am out of here. I'm going to Idaho. I'm going to Texas. I'm going to Florida. You can do that. California is very expensive. If you feel you need to move from the state for some financial reasons, absolutely. But when you're looking for congregants, or if you're looking for little villages with other Christians to share your belief, you're actually missing what we're supposed to do. I want to go to Idaho. Why? Because you know how many Christians live in Idaho? That's where I'm going to live. So I'm going to live around other Christians. Okay. But Paul would actually disagree with you. Nothing wrong against Idaho. We have a campus there. I love Idaho if you're watching online. Okay, here's what Paul would say. 1 Corinthians 9:19. Though I am free and belong to no one, I have made myself a slave to everyone to win as many as possible. To the Jews, I became like a Jew to win the Jews. To those under the law, I became like one under the law, though I myself am not under the law, so as to win those under the law. To those not having the law, I became like one not having the law, though I am not free from God's law, but am under Christ's law, so as to win those not having the law. To the weak, I became weak to win the weak. I become all things to all people, so that by all means, I might save some. I do this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings. Now, how many times have you had somebody blast somebody, totally blast them, and then use the Bible as if that was what they're supposed to do? That's where it gets really worse, okay? You go off on them. I've seen people go off on people because they disagree politically, but what makes me so frustrated is when they yell at somebody, they demean somebody, and then they use the Bible to back them up. That gets really, really, really dangerous. Now, Paul would clearly disagree with that approach, and when the Apostle Paul articulated his stance, he was not just articulating his stance to himself. He was articulating the stance that we as Christ followers are to take. He was actually talking to us as well. He says, though I am free and belong to no one, I have made myself a slave to everyone to win as many as possible. To win as many as possible to who? A politician, a policy, a government, or to God. Okay? Now, the unfortunate reality and why I don't like to post political things is because the second I do, I have now lost all the confidence and even friendship and trust with people that I really care about that may disagree with my politics. And that's not easy, guys. I have my preferences too. I do. I'm a pastor. I love Jesus. I'm also a proud American. Sometimes when I get some of these memes or GIFs, is it GIFs or GIFs? I don't know. Sometimes I see some of them and they're actually kind of funny. I'm like, oh, this is hilarious. I can't send it. Because the second I send it, all the people that disagree with this are going to lose trust in me. And then the people that agree with it are already going to like it anyway. So to me, it just isn't worth it. And it is frustrating. I don't like this. I wish it were different. But John Maxwell said this famous quote. He said this quote, influence takes years to build and seconds to lose. Influence takes years to build, you guys, but just seconds to lose. Okay, you got to remember that. I wish it wasn't that way, but it's that way. I know it feels great to blast somebody who doesn't agree with you, and I've done it, and it feels great in the moment, but it's just that. It's just a moment, and then it goes away. Now, here's the truth, guys. When we participate in political wars, it's not just winners and losers. We have to remember the casualties. When you're going to go to war over something politically, it's not just you won the argument, there's shrapnel all over the place, and that you have to remember that on those relationships, guys. You got to remember the casualties. Okay? Now, it's a bummer that people do this. It's even sadder when Christians do it together. And I've seen Christians do it at each other. Just blasting each other. And you're supposed to be a Christian and you vote for that person, or you do that, or you do this politically. And they get really, starts getting really nasty with each other. And these are both followers of Christ. As if God is satisfied that you're going to just go destroy somebody who disagrees with you. So how do I keep my influences with those in my life while still holding on to my preferences, policies, and opinions? Well, the first one we talked about last week is humble. You got to stay humble. Colossians 4:5 says this: be wise in the way you act toward outsiders and make the most of every opportunity. Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. Okay, get that? Full of grace, seasoned with salt. Here's what we do. Full of salt, maybe single, seasoned little grace in there. But it was full of salt, though. And I think a lot of us like to justify that to a lot of people. And it's so funny, guys. I've actually seen this before where somebody just blasts somebody, like get in a really bad argument. And the thing that, if you want to see me get so frustrated, it's when I've seen Christians do this before, and it drives me absolutely crazy. When they totally get in a fight with a political statement, and then you do the most demeaning thing you do. You go, I'm going to pray for you. No. You don't get to do that. That's no. Because I'm going to pray for you now says, I know more than you. You're an idiot. And so now I'm going to pray that you're like me. And that is not I'm just going to pray for you. I've had somebody tell me that one time when we got in disagreement. I'm just going to pray for you. I said, don't pray for me. Pastor just said, don't pray for me. Yes. On that, yes, don't pray for me. I'm good. Because I know what you're doing. Don't do it. Don't patronize me like that. I don't like it. Don't use God to try to assert some sort of a, superiority of, I'm just going to pray for you that you think more like me. As if somebody's going to go, man, you are such a jerk idiot for voting for that person. You're right. I am a jerk idiot. How should I vote? Also, tell me what Jesus has done in your life, because I'm real interested now. I wasn't before, but now I'd love to know. It doesn't really work that way, guys. The next is do good. Matthew 5:14 says, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So the first one is be humble. The next one is do good. Guys, I was at a church previously to this, and I was a campus pastor. And when I got the campus, it was a huge property. It was gigantic. And I was the only full-time staff member. We had a part-time worship and a part-time kids. And I was the only full-time staff member. And so naturally there was weeds that started growing up. Things needed to be painted. And I saw this guy, and he'd always come to church in a suit. And it made me nervous when I see people in suits, because then I'm like, is there a funeral? Did somebody die? So he always came in a suit every Sunday. And I was like, what is going on with this guy? And he never smiled. He was always cranky. So he goes, I want to meet with you. I was like, great. He goes, Tuesday at 11 o'clock, I'll be in your office. I was like, oh, all right. Okay, great. See you Tuesday. Shows up, and he sits down. I'm like, so tell me about yourself. He's like, no. It's not going to go like this. It's not going to go the way you want it. It's going to go the way I want it. I own XYZ company. I have this much land. And as I drive around here, I took notes of all the things that are wrong in this property. And I'm here to tell you that you are doing a terrible job leading this church, because there is so much weeds and things that need to be done, and it's terrible. I was like, okay. And he goes, I got a list right here, and I'd like to read it to you. I was like, great. But before you do that, I noticed on his hand, he had an indentation where his wedding ring was. So I said, great. Before you do that, can I just ask you a question? He's like, what? And I go, how's your marriage doing? And he stared at me for like 30 seconds. He didn't even say a word. He just stared at me. I was like, are you going to punch me? What are you going to do? And then he just started bawling, crying, uncontrollably crying, shaking, crying. And I said, what's going on? He said, my marriage is a mess. My wife left me because I have an anger issue. Are you kidding me? I have an alcohol issue. I have all these issues, and she left me, and she's not coming back, and my life's a mess. And I've got all the money in the world, but I can't find any peace. So we start talking about that. And about an hour and a half later, he kind of wiped his eyes, and he said, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I just, thank you for letting me get all that off my chest. And I was like, No problem. I go, you got that list though? He goes, no, I'm going to chuck it. Don't worry. No, read the list. You brought in a list, read the list. I'm going to just throw it away. It's not a big deal. I'm like, Jeff, read the list, okay? So he's like, okay. So he says, but I'm not mad at you. I'm not like, just read the list. So this is what da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, okay, great. Are you done? He goes, yeah. I go, you know a lot about property. He goes, yeah, I do this for my company. I'm like, great. You're now in charge of the ministry that's going to beautify this property. Congratulations. I'm not Catholic. I don't know why I did that. But you're good to go. You're now the guy. I put him in charge of it, right? So now he's like, okay. Jeff, along with this other guy, George, beautified the entire property, made it gorgeous. Before he left, I said, one more thing, stop wearing suits because you're making me super nervous. He's like, no more suits. So he'd shirt and shorts and Hawaiian shirts and everything. I was able to baptize Jeff not long after that. We have a picture of that. And it was really, really cool. After I left that church, about 3 months passed, and I was told that Jeff had a massive heart attack and passed away. But the thing that I think of is that God knew the day he was going to be gone. God knew it. And he brought Jeff to the church for the reason so that he could see who God is. He was a much happier person. He was more at peace. He was feeling good about himself. And toward those last years, I think those are probably the best years of his life. So guys, please, when talking about politics, stop making the excuse, but I'm right. So what? So what if you're right? Being right, even believing right, doesn't make us shine. You could be right. They could be wrong. For sure. It doesn't mean you're going to shine. I could be right with Jeff. I could say, listen, I don't have a staff. I don't have this. I don't have that. They're not giving me a budget for this. I could have made a zillion excuses and gotten in an argument with him. I didn't. I just simply talked to him, asked him some questions, loved him. Okay? So many times, guys, we could be believed differently than non-Christians, but honestly, we don't act differently. And here's the problem. We actually are worse because we use the Bible to justify our judgment on them. So, when you're out and about and you're representing God, what does that look like? And you could say, well, I don't understand what you mean. What do you mean, what does it look like to represent God? I mean, what does it look like? What's your logo? And if you're like, oh, that's kind of confusing. I want to show you a picture of a jersey. That is the Orlando Magic jersey. Notice that Disney is the logo on the Orlando Magic jersey, correct? Got it? Notice there are no other logos on the jersey. It's not like Disney, Home Depot, Trader Joe's, Pavilion Supermarket, Wonder Bread. It's just Snickers, nothing. It's just Disney. Why? Because Disney pays a steep price, $8 million a year, to make sure that there are no other logos on the jersey, so they could be the only logo represented. Guys, that's the same with our relationship with Christ. God so loved us that he sent us his son. Jesus loved us so much that he gave up his life to pay a steep price. He literally said, it is finished. I've just paid off their debt. He paid a steep price. And what does that mean? That means that there are no other logos that should be on our jersey. Okay? His is the only one. Paul said it this way. Basically, you're not your own. 1 Corinthians 6:19. Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not on your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. Guys, listen. There are people out there that are saying, it's my body and I could do whatever you want with it. If you're a Christ follower, it is not. I'm sorry. When you're a Christ follower, you now say, I'm acknowledging you, Jesus. You paid the price for me, so now I belong to you. He says, they're mine. So therefore, your bodies, which are rented, by the way, we have to give them back at a certain point, okay? But your bodies are not your own. They are God's. He owns us. He is our Father. He paid the debt clean so that he can own us. Guys, you could choose to follow Jesus. If you're watching online, you could choose to follow Jesus or not. It's up to you. It's totally your choice. But listen to me very carefully. You cannot choose what following Jesus looks like. You could choose to follow him or not, but you can't choose what it looks like because it looks like Jesus. It talks, acts, looks, smells, everything like Jesus. You know the crazy expectations non-Christians have of us Christians? Here, check this out. They actually expect us to be like Jesus. Isn't that crazy? Those non-Christian jerks, they actually think we're supposed to be like Jesus, Christ-like. The nerve of them. Unbelievable. Here's the thing, guys. That's what we need to be, Christ-like. Again, guys, have your political preferences all you want. Please, vote. Please, if you're in a safe place where people that you know you can talk openly about it and you can disagree and it's okay, talk about it. Talk about it all you want, okay? But ask yourself this week, guys, when next time you really want to blast somebody publicly, is my political commentary creating an unnecessary distraction from Jesus? I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm saying this is something you need to ask yourself. Is my political commentary creating an unnecessary distraction from Jesus? Now, my thing that really saddens me, especially when I see Christians doing it, is that when there's a tragedy going on, like let's say there's a hurricane or a fire or earthquakes or, tsunami or whatever, people rush to make a political commentary before anything else. And that drives me absolutely crazy. Like when the Maui fires happened, my first reaction was not posting a post about climate change. My first reaction was like just getting on my knees saying, God, what can we possibly do for these people that are hurting? What can we do? When I see a school shooting, when I see kids, videotape of kids literally diving under their desks, kids that just wanted to go to school, that's all they wanted to do, diving under their desks to try to escape gunfire, to see the evil that's going on right there. My first reaction is not to hurry up and post a post about gun control. They're already doing something illegal. My thing is, how can we possibly help our communities? How can we be there for these families, these children? What does that look like? Guys, if your first reaction to tragedy is to post a political post, get on a big stump, you got a problem with your heart. You got to check that. You got to really look at that. If your first reaction is like, oh, look at that fire. Look at all those people running in the ocean to avoid being burned to death. Oh, we better post about climate change and get on this. You got to check your heart on that. You got to make sure that you're understanding whose logo is on your jersey. We need to show up. We need to care. We need to give. We need to serve. We need to get on our knees and ask God. Our political leaders, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, have to get on their knees and humble themselves and do good. And if they're not going to do it, don't follow their lead. You do it. They're not your God. Make sure that don't wait for somebody to ask you to do it. You see something going on that needs help, get on your knees, humble yourself, and do good. Don't worry about all the political talking points out there. Care, love, pray, give, serve. Showing our love for Jesus. It's the most important thing, guys. Now, I know that it's hard in this climate. I do. But guys, here's the deal. When you're watching these cable news shows, understand this. Their job is to rile you up. That's their job. I'm not disparaging them. I'm not even disparaging you for watching them. But no, don't be naive. Their job is to get you riled up so that you could go out and start telling people off, and then they tell you off, and then you're now, this is my side. No, this is my side. Remember this, guys. No matter what side of the fence you're on, whose logo is on your jersey? And if it's Jesus here, and your political party here, and then your talking points here, and your policies here, and your politician here, there's an issue. You were bought at a price. Jesus needs to be the only logo on your jersey, guys. That's not to say you can't have your opinions. It's not even saying you can't share your opinions. But how are you communicating those opinions? Do they have the love of Jesus? That's something that we got to remember. Guys, I just want to brag about you as we close up. And that's this. This is this very scary topic. Guys, I'm going to be very, very honest with you, very blunt. During the time I've been a campus pastor, I've had several complaints. I've had complaints for a lot of different reasons, things that I have said. People didn't like the way I handled COVID. People didn't like Some of the things, I had several members get upset, very upset, and then leave our church because of statements I made regarding life and abortion. I've had a lot of people get mad at me for that life starts in the womb. God knew us in the womb, and that's, if you're wondering what statement, that was the statement. Some people didn't like that, and they left. I've gotten a lot of complaints for a lot of different things, guys. But I'm never going to stop speaking out whatever God's putting on my heart. Please know this. Everything that I talk about is from pure love, guys. Really. Because I pray all week when I deliver a message, especially something like this. God, help me to deliver it in a way that shows the love of you and not shows people trying to convince somebody to believe something, this or that. I want to say that even though I've gotten a lot of complaints for different things, we've been talking about political powder keg. I've been nervous about it. I have not received one complaint from this entire series. I want to take this microcosm of that, and there might be people that disagree with me, and that's okay, but take the microcosm of that and expand that into this community. Guys, if there's anything that this community needs, it's that. We openly talked about politics, not one complaint. Not one. This church, guys, do not let anybody fool you into thinking that church is too small to make a huge difference. That's bull malarkey. God never said you have to be a certain size to make a difference, ever. He just said, you got to trust me. This church right here can change this community, and if I didn't believe it could, I wouldn't be doing this. I'd be doing something else for a living. I believe this church can absolutely transform this community, and this series and your reaction to it has been a great example of that. Let's pray. Father, I just thank you, God, for your church. I thank you for the people that are here. I thank you for the people watching online, Jesus. I thank you for their support. I know there are people watching online that are praying along with me right now, that love this church. And I thank you for them, every one of them that are watching in their homes or at a coffee shop or wherever. I just thank you so much for them. And I thank you again for the people that are here, God. There will be nothing that will ever stop us from having church, Jesus. And we're always going to have our doors open because it's your church, belongs to you. We want to make sure that we always have our doors open if somebody needs to see somebody, to get a hug, to get a smile in person. But we also know that there are people that would love to be here today that are watching online, and I just thank you so much for them as well. Father, help this church to continue to be a great microcosm of what it looks like to disagree and still totally love each other. Father, that's something that the world absolutely needs, and it's something that only you can give. There is no politician walking the face of this earth that could deliver that, no matter what their rhetoric is, no matter what their party is. You're the only one that could do that. And we thank you for this example at this church. We also pray, God, for anybody who's been affected by this weather and the tropical storms that are happening, especially in the mountains and desert areas, God. And we just continue to pray for our brothers and sisters in Maui as they continue to rebuild. And we thank you for this church, and we thank you for everybody in it. In your name, amen.
South Hills Church, I just want to take a moment and say thank you for watching our service online. Whether you're watching it for the first time or you're watching it again because you enjoyed the service so much from the weekend, I'd like to take a moment and dive into our giving. Every week we give people the opportunity to give back and give to the local church so that God can continue to bless your lives and bless your finances. Here at South Hills, we believe that everything comes from God. We believe that He's the one that chose us and brought us into this world, gave us our gifts and talents and abilities. And I just want you to know that when we give, we are giving back what God has already given to us. If you've ever seen any of our envelopes at a South Hills campus, you'll see on there that it says, every week at South Hills, your generosity is giving people the opportunity to live a better story. And there's a scripture on there in Matthew chapter 6, verse 21 that says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So I want to encourage you today to click down below and set up your giving, whether it's for the first time or whether you're doing reoccurring giving. We have 4 ways to give here at South Hills. 1, you can do it in person at any of our campuses through an envelope. Or 2, you can actually text any amount that you would like to 84321 one. And the third way is to download our Church Center app. I encourage you to do this one because the Church Center app gives you opportunity to stay connected with our church and your campuses. It's a great tool and resource for you to know what's going on. And the fourth way to give is to give online. You can go to southhills.org/give and you can set up your giving there. Whether you're a guest of our church or whether you are a member of our church, whether you simply just like to watch our services, I encourage you to trust God with your finances so that He can bless and anoint your finances and you can be trusting God in this journey of living life to the fullest. I love you and thank you for watching our online service today.